Good afternoon, my fellow Idahoans. I'm just in the mood to create videos. I wrote a post some time ago on my website that had to do with an issue I had with the trial by jury. And I wasn't sure if I conveyed myself correctly. I'm commonly told that I really write poorly and that I can convey my message much more clearly through video. So I was thinking about maybe focusing it on something more pretty like flowers or something else. But anyway, you get to see my mug anyway, because I think that it's important that you can see my mannerisms and hopefully that I'm not misunderstood. Anyway, I was called for jury duty a couple of months ago. The reason why I waited is because I wanted to talk to the court clerk about the issue that happened. So I was called for jury duty, and I thought that, like most people, they all try to get out of jury duty and just find a way to get out of it. And when I started digging into law and history, I realized how important it is. And it was something that I really decided that I really wanted to put everything I had into it and learn as much as I could about the trial by jury. And what I found is it's tremendously powerful, as many of you know. At least it was. So I called, and my number was called, and I went in, and they had began talking to the jury, and we walked into the courtroom, and the magistrate and the prosecutor were what I would consider stacking the jury. What I mean by that is they ask significant questions to be able to bar particular jurors. Do you have a problem with law enforcement? Do you have a problem with this? Or do you have a problem with that? Really, not really trying to determine whether they're informed or not, because they've already been qualified through the fact that their number has been called. So they really should have been there, in my best estimation, there on their own accord, on the fact that they were informed and had the ability to be able to be a juror. What we find out is quite something different. The Constitution declares that we will have a trial by jury in all cases, civil cases and criminal. Actually, if you look in it, I think it's a Declaration of Article 1, which is a Declaration of Rights section. I think it's Section 8. And the difference in the civil case is the fact that you have 6 jurors instead of 12. Well, if they decided to just go ahead and get rid of that, which is a different issue. Actually, it's not. I'd love to go into that, but usually I go over 9 minutes. It's very dangerous. So I was called as the 12th juror. I wanted to keep my mouth shut, but as many of you know, it's rather difficult. And it was the courtroom was packed. So I could have gone 2 ways. One, I could have just shut my mouth, become a juror, done what I was supposed to do as a juror, and be done with it. Or I could try to educate a room full of jurors. So after the judge was, what I believe to be stacking the jury and asking sort of questions and all of that, she began to instruct the jury. And one of the things that she said was, I, the judge, the magistrate, judge the law, and you judge the facts, the jurors. And so she asked a bunch of questions, and she directed questions to the jurors, and she said, basically, does anybody have a problem with any of the questions that I said? And so I kind of raised my hand, and I said, excuse me, your magistrate. I said, I believe your statements to be inaccurate. I believe that it completely undermines the power of the trial by jury in the fact that the jurors are supposed to judge the facts and the law. And I said specifically for 2 reasons. One of them is that it's a check upon the usurpation of the magistrate with its excessive, in case it exceeded its authority or it had a particular bias against the criminal. If she was raped or something and there was a domestic guy right there, obviously, she's not going to really remain unbiased. And so the jury, if they were informed, would know that. And the law, we were supposed to judge the law to judge the usurpation as a check on the legislature in case they wrote laws that were in excess of their authority. Now, we all know that if we go to court And we know that the legislature writes laws and they don't read them and they pass them, and we get really angry or frustrated as people, and we wonder what that redress is. Meanwhile, we're all avoiding jury duty. You can see why we're creating our own problem there, can't you? So basically, the power of the trial by jury in Canyon County has been diminished by 50%, at least 50%. I think it's gone all the way. If they rob a part of our power, they've really taken it all. And so I was really angry about this. As a matter of fact, I was in tears. I walked into the court clerk's office, or the secretaries in there, and they know me because I've been in there and talked to them before, and they remembered me. And I was in tears, and they looked at me and they said, "What's wrong?" And I said, "Oh my God, are you serious? This is not a court of justice. This is a complete something else." And they said, "Well, what do you mean?" And so I explained to them what I told you guys. And she said, "Well, maybe you want to talk to the trial court administrator." And I thought, trial court administrator? I said, "Isn't the county clerk the one that's in charge of the courthouse?" Come to find out, constitutionally, yes. So my thought is the fact that, and I haven't justified this or anything, it's just my head working here, that the trial court administrator was the one that I was supposed to talk to, and he was now superior to the court clerk. So the trial court administrator, he just looked at me and said, "Tom, what do you want me to do?" And I just walked away and knew I wasn't going to get anywhere with him. And so I talked to our illustrious county clerk, which happens to be a friend of mine, and I have a lot of respect for him. Him and his wife and his family are great people, but this is where it makes it very difficult for me in my relationship with people, because they knowingly undermine the liberty of the people. Because when I asked him about this, his answer was, "Well, we've been doing that for decades." And so what I got out of that as a statement was, here's the county court clerk that understands the trial by jury, has completely believed in the change or the usurpation of the authority granted to the magistrate and the inability for us to seek redress upon excessive laws written by the legislature, and basically says, that's just the way it is. So here we are, people. Our founding fathers stated that the trial by jury, if it was ever stripped away from the people, would fling the doors wide open, and I'm paraphrasing, to tyranny. Because there's no way through the judiciary for us to ever be able to find remedy for that right that we were granted. So this is why I urge every one of you to be able to understand the power of the trial by jury. It's incredibly important. You've all but lost it because you don't know it. And there's a book called The Citizen's Rule Book that I urge every one of you guys to get. And you can also learn about jury nullification, which will also help you understand that. Nullification to me isn't necessarily a thing. It just is. It's when there's a usurpation of a check and balance in a constitutional government, there's always a way to be able to check that authority. And that's simply what, in my view, what nullification is. So we're walking on very dangerous ground. You know, people, they go into, we're packing courtrooms, and people are getting frustrated, and their answer is taking tax dollars and hiring more attorneys to be able to help us with what they deem frivolous paperwork. And then when you go to court and they don't have any evidence against you in court, they rule against you anyway. And this is in our own Canyon County Courthouse, and I know it's happening in Ada County, and it's happening across the country. And this is something that we should be very, very aware of. They will rule against you because it's almost as if they're in a different court. It's almost as if we're in a different form of government. My question is, what form of government is that? So anyway, that's some thoughts on the trial by jury. I hope you guys get some use out of that. If I'm wrong in any way, please feel free to share the error of my ways by posting comments or anything you care to do. So I love you, Idaho. Take care.